Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today we are going to learn auto layout and responsiveness by creating this login page. Auto layout has evolved over the years with more settings and properties that has made it more flexible, and it has become a standard for every designer now. So the best way to learn something and understand it is to practice it, and that is exactly what we are going to do in this video. We are going to create this login page with auto layout. We'll make it responsive for mobile and desktop, and we'll apply many settings of the auto layout where needed. Before we get started, you know the drill. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you have any question at any point, let me know in the comments. Alright, let's get into it. So I already have all of my assets. I have the pattern on the background, I have the logo, the text field component, and the button component, but we're going to recreate this too because we want to use auto layout and I want to show you how this is done, right? So auto layout, because auto layout has evolved over the years, auto layout has made it easy for designers to create responsive designs on Figma. So usually before the evolution of auto layout can be used to create the normal interface, right? And from there you can now create maybe the mobile and desktop version. But now so for you to show your responsive design for mobile screens and maybe tablet screens, you have to create a different version of it, which we still do. But when it comes to prototyping the design, you have to create your design in such a way that it adapts to not just smaller screens but bigger screens also. So, and Figma has already made it easy with the auto layout feature and with the way the prototype now works. So in the prototype view or in the presentation view, if you present your screen through here, you can see an option for displaying in a responsive manner, so it displays according to your screen, right? So we'll get there shortly. So I'm going to take a screenshot of my screen so that you can see the size. So this is the screenshot of my screen, and you can see the size is 9020 by 1080. So this is the width of my screen, but it doesn't really matter the size that you go with, right? I'm just going to go with 1440, which is like the most common size of laptop screens, right? So I'm going to hit the frame key, the frame 2. I'm going to select the frame 2, and we are going to come here. I'm going to pick desktop, and I'll pick just desktop, this, right? So I'm going to make this, I'm going to place this here. Then the first thing is I'm going to give it that background. So the background is the color of this button. So I'm not using any color library, I'm just going to pick from this library, from this button, right? So that's the color. So, and this is just a regular frame, but for us to be able to make this frame adapt to this, let me present this screen first so that you see what I'm seeing. Okay, so this is the way the screen looks like. So remember I said Figma now has a responsive kind of view here. So when I when I hit the Z key on my keyboard, I'm switching between the views here. So this is the responsive one, right? And you can see that this screen is responsive it's responsive because it's expanding, right? But we're only going to be able to make this one responsive to my own screen because my screen is wider than what I'm picking. As you can see, this is 1440, and this is the width of my screen, which is 9020, right? Way wider than the screen size that I'm using. You can see the difference. So, but it will still respond, right? Because of the responsive view that Figma added. So, but this screen is only going to respond because this is the base screen. If we have other items inside it, they won't respond if we don't make them auto layout, or if we don't make set their constraints to respond, right? So if you don't know what I mean by constraints, I have a video where I compared auto layout to constraints, which I will link in the description of this video. You can also watch it. So I'm going to bring in the background pattern. So I'm just going to copy this pattern, and I'm going to click this and paste it here, right? So I'm just going to paste it here like this. I'm going to set it to center, but remember we are using auto layout, so we cannot leave this as a frame. We are going to set it as an auto layout. So I'm going to hit Shift A Shift plus A. So when I hit Shift plus A, because there is nothing inside this auto layout frame yet apart from this pattern, so usually sometimes when you convert a frame to auto layout, this thing changes to hug and hug, but now it's on fixed. But sometimes it changes to hug and hug, and whenever it changes to hug and hug, it alters the size of this. Assuming there's an object inside, like, no, let me not bring this one, like this for example, and I added auto layout to it. It is going to respond to this, because the way the auto layout behaves is that it responds to anything you put inside it until you now tell it to do otherwise. So now, because there's nothing inside it, so this width remains on fixed and fixed, which is okay, which is what I want, right? I want it to be fixed and fixed. But if I want it to hug, so just like the word hug implies, it hugs whatever is inside, right? If I say let it hug now, you can see that the size of this pattern is bigger than the size of the frame, right, of the desktop frame. So if I say hug, look at what happens. It goes to pick the size of the frame. Can you see? Of the pattern rather. Now it's picking the size of the pattern, which I don't want, right? I want it to pick the size of the custom size which I give it. So I want it to be 1440, and this one is 1080. Yeah, is it 1080? 1024. So this is what I want it to look like, 1024 by 1440. So now I want this pattern to sit at the middle, right? So I'm going to click on this frame. So once you convert auto layout, once you convert a frame to an auto layout frame, you get a new settings here, which is where all of the auto layout magic happens, right? So the alignment of the objects or items inside the auto layout can be controlled from this place. So you can either say you want it to align to the top, center, bottom, center, or left, right, top, right, bottom, left, top, left, bottom, right, or top, right. Whichever one you choose is up to you, right? So another thing you can do with this, so let me set this to the center, right? You will not understand the way this alignment works properly now, because we've not started adding multiple items into the auto layout. So let us do something. Let us create let's just create the form, the login form. So we have this and we have these three. The logo will be at the top. So I want to select these three, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to add it into auto layout, Shift A. So now I can decide to make this fixed, right? Because I want to show you something. So let's set the gap here. So this gap is the space between items, between child items inside the auto layout frame. So this is 20. So I just switch it to 20 so that you see. So you see this is aligned to the top right. So let me expand this. And when I expand, what happens? This thing is expanded with it because each item inside is set to fill container. So let's assume that I don't want to fill container. I want it to stay the way it is. I want it to remain the same size. So instead of saying fill container, I'll just say fixed, right? So when I expand this, what happens? It stays in place. So now I want to use this to explain the alignment. So this is top right, this center, this top left, center left, bottom left, center, top center, bottom center, right, top right, bottom right. I hope you understand the way this thing works now. So now another thing we need to understand is the direction. So this is the direction of the items inside the auto layout frame. So currently the direction is in vertical layout. So that means every item I place inside this thing will arrange itself vertically. And if I switch it to horizontal, what happens? Everything arranges itself horizontally. So in this case, I can also switch this width now to hug, and it's going to take the maximum width of or that the items inside it is occupying, right? So I can also say wrap. So wrap is like it is not vertical, it is not horizontal, depending on the size of this frame. So if I decide to compress it, it will switch to 2 lines. Can you see? And if I expand it, it stays on 1 line. That's the way wrap works. So instead of there are some times when you want to convert from desktop to mobile screens, you might want to make some things that are aligned horizontally to come vertical, or some of them come vertical, some of them stay horizontal. So let's say I want to switch this width now to a mobile width, and I want to bring it down like this to this width. This is what happens, right? That's what wrap works for. It's a very, very useful feature, because this settings didn't come with auto layout at first. It was as Autolayout got better, that they added this, right? Then another thing that they added is these settings, last on top or first on top. So now this works mostly when you want to do I don't know, you must have seen some designs that look like this, an avatar arrangement where they arrange pictures over each other like this. So let's say this is purple, this is blue, this is green, and this is whatever this color is called. So let's say you want this one to be at the top and still be on this side, then we convert it, we add it into Autolayout. We create an Autolayout frame around it. So once you create Autolayout frame, they don't stay on top of each other, they maintain 0, right, until you come and reduce this gap between them, and they start stacking on top of each other. But now you want this first one to come over, right, you want it to come on top, then you say first, you see, you can switch to first on top or last on top, and that's what happens, first on top or last on top. So that's the way that settings works. And another thing we have here is the minimum and maximum width. We will get to that shortly. Then another thing is also the clip content. This applies to normal frames too, and this one recently got into Figma lock aspect ratio. So when you lock aspect ratio, just like when you lock the aspect ratio of a shape, so let's say I want to create this shape, I created this shape and I want it to maintain the same height and width, and I lock this. Whichever way I expand it, it is going to respond based on the same length and the same width, right? So it's going to respond if I expand from the right side, it's going to respond vertically too. But let's say I did not put this is what will happen. I will only be able to expand like this. The same thing now has now been added to Autolayout. So if you lock the aspect ratio of the Autolayout, if you expand the Autolayout, yes, the size of the Autolayout frame will increase with a locked ratio. So the same increment to the length will be added to the breadth. That is exactly what this feature is talking about, right? So let's say all of this, the aspect ratio to have been locked. Then when we do this, so for them to respond to the Autolayout frame, we have to set them to fill the Autolayout frame first, fill and fill vertically and horizontally. So when we expand like this, what happens? They follow. But because the size of the Autolayout frame, the height is not the same as the height of the circle, so it's going to expand it in a funny way. But I hope you understand. I'm just trying to use it to understand, to explain how this ratio thing works. So let's create the form quickly. So I'm going to create the login form now. So the login form is already halfway done because we already put it in Autolayout. So I'm just going to change this direction to vertical like this. Then I'm going to make a duplicate of this. So this will be email address and this will be password. So because this is a component, I can easily turn off the icon here for email address and do the password like that. Then I'm going to compress the width of this. So I'm going to leave it at 440 or 450 maybe. Then I'm going to select these three to fill container. I want them to fill container. So you can see the settings of the Autolayout, fill container. So again, we want to group these three because for us to be able to make this look professional, we have to group this first, then group this with the button. Then we can now call this the form. Then we can fill it with white. Then we can give it like a padding of 20, just like that, right? So the gap here now can now be 30 and this one 30. So we have our login form. So I'm going to bring this login form into the page. So I'm going to drag and place it into this page, right? So now because this is an Autolayout already and this settings is set to vertical, once I place this, it goes up and this one comes down because this one is also staying inside the Autolayout. But now this is where Autolayout can be flexible. This is why you don't really need to use any other thing apart from Autolayout when you're designing these days. So Autolayout has this feature where you can set items to absolute position, which means once you set them to absolute position, for that item alone, it will behave. Autolayout will choose to behave like a regular frame only for that item. So we want Autolayout to behave like a regular frame for only this pattern. So I'm going to set it to absolute position, then I'm going to set it to center and center, just like this, right? Then we have this form, which is the sign up form, right? I mean sign in form rather. So we're going to add the text. So I already have the text here, so I'm just going to bring it into, I'll just copy, or I can cut. Okay, just Ctrl X to cut. Then to paste inside an Autolayout frame, you have to select the Autolayout frame itself. So again, because we set this pattern to absolute position, now it's not allowing us to click this white frame because the pattern is on top of the frame. So we just use the square bracket, left square bracket, to send it to the back. And because I don't want to tamper with the pattern, I can just lock it. So once I lock it, it will lock in place, it will stay in place. Then I'll click this frame and I'll paste, just Ctrl V. Then when I paste, this one goes down because it was not in the frame before, so it can't just go and stay in the middle, it will go down. Then I will now bring it up just using my arrow key. Then from this, I can now set this padding to 40. I'm going to set it to 40, and I'm going to expand this a bit, just like this. And now we have the login page, right? So now remember I talked about minimum and maximum width. So one thing we want to do is we want this particular screen to also be able to work for mobile, so that when we just want to create the mobile, we don't have to come and be adjusting. We just easily do something like this and it works for mobile. That's what we are going to do. So this is not always going to work in every of your design, but for pages like this, it's going to easily work. So I'm going to set the padding here, the left and right padding, horizontal padding, I'm going to set it to 20. I'm going to leave the vertical padding at 0. Then I'm going to add a maximum width to this. So what we are doing is that we want to set this thing to fill this container like this, but at the same time we don't want it to go beyond a particular width. That is why we are going to add the maximum width of 450. And once I add the maximum width of 450, I think you should be able to see a red line on the right and left, which is showing you that no matter how wide this screen can be, this thing will never go beyond that width. That's what it tells you. It can go below the width, but it will never go beyond, because if I reduce it, because it has been set to fill, you can see it will maintain that gap, the 20 pixel padding that I applied to this frame, and it will stay in place. But if it ever goes wider than this, then the maximum width will hold it in place, right? So now you can see that our page is looking good, but if you notice, the pattern is not occupying the entire screen, and that's because the pattern stops here and here, and it's because we did not add some settings to the pattern. So let us come to the pattern and add some settings. So you can see the constraint of the settings is set to center and center, but we don't want it to be center and center. We want it to scale. We want it to scale both vertically and horizontally, depending on the size of the screen. And once we do that, I'm going to press Z again and switch back to responsive. But you can see that now it's staying on the right hand side. So let us see why it's staying on the right hand side. So what we can do to this is, instead of making it stay in place and let it scale, because the object inside the frame itself is not set to scale, so it will be difficult for us to make it scale. As you can see, it is not just a picture, it is a whole pattern that was made. Assuming this was a picture, it would have worked. So what we can do is, instead of saying let it increase in size, let's just add more to it. So I'm just going to make a duplicate of this and make it longer, so that this pattern can now hug like this, so that by the time we go to a bigger screen, then we have it like this, right? So there's a small issue here. I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this. I'm going to move just one. Yes, just like that. Yeah, so now we have the login screen fully designed. So we might just want to do a little bit. So I'm going to lock this again, and we can just do a little bit of maybe corner radius here. And just add a little bit of corner radius to make things look smooth and nice. Yes, so this is our login screen, and if you are able to create this design to this point, then you must have been able to understand Autolayout to this point, right? So I hope this helps you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any question, do well to drop your question in the comments. And that will be it for this video, and I'll see you in the very next.